Hello, everyone. Welcome. We're here going live, and I am here actually with a friend. I am here with John Chen. He is going to be one of the speakers next week at the Unforgettable Experience Design Summit. And I met John at an event last year, and we became friends pretty fast. So John and I decided, hey, let's go live today and just talk a little bit for a few minutes about the summit next week and an event that John's coming up. But before we even do that, John, we're going to have a little bit of fun. I want you to tell everybody a couple things that you see people doing that make online events boring.
Well, I have one message I have to tell Phil first that is not quite boring, and that's this. Unforgettable. Phil's book is unforgettable. Unforgettable. There you go. There. Hopefully I didn't get cut on that. Anyways, so Phil, thank you so much. What do people do that make meetings boring? You know, sometimes it starts as bad as when they put out the meeting. If they have a boring title and then nobody shows up and they wonder why. Right. So, kudos to you for making a conference. And I'm so glad that hearing that you got great people already being there. The next thing that they do is that they miss all the opportunities that, you just posted this article and that says, does your meeting use greeters? And it's so important that the first 5 minutes of your meeting are the most important. Why? Because it sets the tone, literally the sax tone for everything else afterwards. And if your meeting is the Zoom, blue screen, that's what people get, right? And sorry, Zoom, I like you, but that's not what you should have in the first part of your meeting. Most people, Phil, don't know that you can stick first an image, your own custom text, but most importantly, you could put a video. So the first thing that happens to them is they get a video of maybe you, Phil, right? And with a text message that says, welcome to an unforgettable experience, from the very greatest moment to make it unforgettable. And the next thing that happens that makes people boring, that makes virtual meetings boring, is that you log into the meeting, you finally get that button, you see that spinning dial, you get into the meeting, and then all of a sudden, it's black screens. There's no one talking to you. You don't even know you're in the right meeting. And this is your introduction to the most unforgettable experience. It's going to be unforgettable because you're going to leave. So the first thing you should do is, in my meetings, we play music, right? We immediately say, hey, Phil, what's going on, right? Hey, feel free to unmute and say hello. Make sure your mic works, Phil. And the secret of that part right there in a virtual meeting is they suddenly understand this is a virtual meeting that I can talk in. This is not a virtual meeting that I sit back for 60 minutes and just watch. Right. And so all those things, I think, are all the pieces of boring meeting. And then my classic killer, Phil, is this one. You get on early. You've already pressed the link. You made sure your camera's on. You made sure your mic is working. And then they give you these dreaded words. Let's just wait a few more minutes for the other people to log on. Because that's all it does is penalize you, the early person, for being there. Why don't you here's my solution for that. Give value to the early people so they keep coming early, as opposed to, trying to give those people the light. So those are some of my top boring things that I've seen over the last 3 years.
Well, for those of you who are already watching, you just got 3 knowledge bombs from John, and that's only a little bit of what he's going to do next week at the Unforgettable Experience Design Summit. That is being held September 5th through the 8th. And we would love for you to come and join us and about 15 of our friends. It's only 90 minutes a day. It's kind of a long lunch break or late morning if you're on the West Coast, from 12 to 1:30 Central Time. It's all online. It's free if you attend in person. And then there's recordings available later. Also, John, you are hosting an event in October, and I get to be part of that with you. And it's called the Oh, you tell everyone what it's called.
It's
There
called
we
the
go.
Engaging Conference, right? Phil's about unforgettable, and I'm about engaging. If you haven't figured that out, we have the Engaging Conference, of which Phil's going to be a speaker. It's going to be the secrets of planning engagement, whether you're in person, hybrid, or virtual. It's October 23rd through 25th. We have a free ticket and we have a VIP. Let's see. So here is a connection to. There's also a link below, but if you use this engagingvirtualmeetings.com/CON, it will also have a 50% discount for being one of Phil's amazing friends. And we have all of these people here who are going to give you, these are the best people I could find in the last year who are here to create an amazing and engaging summit, conference, or masterclass. If that's you, you need to click that link. If you're one of these people who plan those, we saw that that was the biggest need that we've seen, because people were planning sometimes unforgettable and boring, right? Conferences, summits, and masterclasses. And that's where you can really have the biggest impact. So amazing people that are on this list, they all have already made a difference in my life. And one of the cool things here is that you can get one of these toolkits when you're a VIP, and we're going to give one of these away. If you are watching my session, you have to be on while you're on my session in Phil's part. One of the people who are live during this time is going to win a VIP ticket that also includes this toolkit, all the recordings, and everything else that you need. Back to you, Phil.
Sorry, I stepped away because I had to bring back evidence that I have part of your toolkit. Actually, I've got more. I've got a copy of the book right here. Oops, here we go.
Yes.
So this was even signed. And if you have the VIP ticket, I'm sure John will be happy to sign that for you. So that's pretty cool. Hey, I don't want to keep promoting our shows. I want to give one more knowledge bomb here. So let's go to the other end of the spectrum, John. So we've talked about 3 things that people do that make events boring. Talk about somebody else's event that did something that was totally unforgettable that you won't literally forget. And online only. Let's just talk about an online event for you, something that was very unforgettable, and you'll probably remember it for decades to come. Can you remember one?
Yes, I talk about this all the time, right? Do you remember, there was an amazing woman who wrote that little book called Eat, Pray, Love. Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Elizabeth Gilbert is the author of that book. And one of the conferences I got to work at, called Training Magazine, finally got her as a speaker, because normally she was in India at that time. Because in the book, if you read, she goes to India all the time, and it was at the same time this conference. And of course, this year she couldn't go anywhere because she couldn't travel. So she came and keynoted this conference. And this is what made it unforgettable, Phil, is that 38 minutes into a 45-minute keynote, somebody chats, "I feel like I'm having a one-on-one conversation with Elizabeth Gilbert in an Italian cafe." Now, let me just remind you, Elizabeth Gilbert sold 16 million books and then had Julia Roberts play her in the movie. Like, this was a movement. It was an amazing piece. And she did that. And I looked over the participants list, and there were 650 people. And I said, how do you do that? And then on top of that, Phil, she didn't use any technical tricks. She never once shared her screen, right? She didn't run any polls, and she completely engaged an audience. And I still remember it to this day, because it took 12 of us and a whole bunch of hours. We had to rewatch that replay, and we tore apart her keynote, and we discovered 8 things that she's doing better than anybody else. And we've been attempting to do that, where you just engage people using no additional technology. And people love that, because they're kind of burned out on tech now, right, Phil? Right? Not everybody has a cool mic. Not everybody has a beautiful camera, and they don't want to do another thing, but they do want engagement. And so that's what makes it so unforgettable. Here's the top 3. I'll just give you the top 3 bombs right now: authenticity, vulnerability, and storytelling. She uses these 3 things to such a high degree that she can make somebody feel like, I'm having a one-on-one with you, when there's 650 people online. That's totally unforgettable, Phil.
That's amazing. I wish I could have been there. I'm going to tell you mine because I'm excited that the person who created this experience is speaking next week. And that's John Berghoff, and he's kicking off day 2 on Wednesday. I don't know if you know John. John and John, that's funny. John leads a company called Exchange Approach,
Yes,
and
I've seen it.
he is a former sales guy. But what he does is he can go into large companies and create conversations at scale that are transformative to that company. He's done it with Google, with Meta, with NASA, with all these different companies, but he also trains people how to do it. Well, he does this in person. So when the pandemic hit, he's like, what do I do? And I was literally at an event with him right before the pandemic and signed up for his program, was looking forward to going to a conference in, I think, October or something like that in Cleveland, where he lives. And then he's like, well, we have to transition. We have to figure out how to do it. So I went to the 3-day version of the in-person conference that he did. It was, I think, the first or second time he did it. And he began it by doing, what all of us do online in these experiences. He had us meet somebody and he had us just introduce ourselves, but he did it in a different way. He said, I want you to find an artifact somewhere in the room where you are, because most everything in the room where you are probably has some level of meaning to you, unless it's a piece of paper. So I grabbed my saxophone because it was close by and I was using it for an event that was coming up the next week. And you've got something. And so I used that to introduce myself. I said, hi, my name is Phil. I'm a jazz saxophonist, and I told a story or something. That ended up being a metaphor for the week. That's not what was so profound. The next time he did it, he had us go grab something outside. He wanted to get us grounded in nature somehow. So I went outside and I found something, brought it in. And what I shared wasn't significant. What was happening was very significant. So I was sharing something personal. I was broadening the world that I was part of, bringing that to this same group. There's a group of 4, I believe. Then the third time that we came together, and I don't remember the prompt, but I do remember this, John. The third time we got together, I broke down crying. Strangers. I didn't know the other 3 people in the room. I think we were all guys, but I don't remember. And my daughter had just attempted to take her life recently. I don't remember how recently it was, but it was within a month or 2 prior to this. And I ended up sharing that. Well, there was another dad in the group who had gone through the very same thing within the last year. And all of a sudden it went from, this, hey, I'm a saxophonist, which, by the way, that was actually personal to say that about myself, because at that moment I wasn't embracing that I'm a saxophonist. And then something that was grounded, and then something that was very vulnerable. And I won't forget that event. I don't remember everything he taught, but I do remember how he made me feel safe and comfortable. By the end of it, that group, and it broadened to about 7 or 8 people, planned an experience that was unlike any of the others that were done. Like we had to all do a summary experience. And the one that we did had me playing the underscore on my saxophone, actually more interstitially because we're on Zoom. You can't do it at the same time as people talking. And then the other people were sharing different highlights of what the event had meant. And we had crafted this story, and it was very unique to who the different people were in the circle. I will never forget that. And again, like you said, there wasn't a lot of technology. We were using Zoom. We were using breakout rooms. That's it.
And he's using that power of vulnerability. And when we talk about psychological safety, he got you to feel safe enough to share something, to be really vulnerable in front of each other. And we have seen this over the last 3 years. I've seen an exchange program, and that's one of the reasons why it works, is that people said you couldn't go deep on virtual, and they just said because they didn't know how. You can. We're humans. We're designed to do it. But just like in a normal room, our normal conversations don't normally go that deep. But when you have special people and facilitators, they create this psychological safety so that you can create an unforgettable moment. Thank you so much for sharing, Phil.
Yeah, no, thank you. Well, folks, we are excited to have you come to either one of our events. Let me go back to the, let's see. Whoops. Hello. I just clicked on, clicked on your event. let me share the summit that's happening next week, because we would love for you to come to the Unforgettable Experience Design Summit with us next week. We'd love for you to attend John's event, and we'll tell you more about that later, because that's not till later in October. The last thing we would love to offer for those of you who are watching, John is open for conversations. And so this is how you meet him. It's as simple as engagingvirtualmeetings.com/meet. And John will set up an appointment. And I've done this several times with him. He is a wealth of knowledge. He is glad to give it away. He helps people all over the world producing events, but he also just loves helping people create better events. Because at the end of the day, John, neither one of us ever want to go to another boring event. And if we can stamp out boring events one at a time with every person, the person who's watching, all the people who will watch this later, if we can help you make your events less boring and hopefully make them unforgettable, we're making the world a better place. John,
Phil, I got one last. Oh,
yeah.
I got one thing to share. Last night, literally, we put on a hybrid program that was called the Love Lahaina Luau. And it was the brainchild of my friend Larry, who's an auctioneer here in Seattle. And I just came there to broadcast it. But last night we raised over $10,000, where my friend Marcia Sharp, who's on the board for the Maui Food Bank, tuned in by Zoom and came in there. And Phil, this is that other moment. She shared what it's like having to feed 10,000 people a day and broke down and cried a little bit. And nobody in that room will ever forget that they made a difference. And so that's the other way. You want to make something unforgettable? Do something good. Give back. And we did that last night, Phil.
That's amazing. Well, we're going to close this out in one more unforgettable moment. And this is a song that is unforgettable for me. It's not the one we started with, but instead I'm going to go back over here and we're going to go live as we say goodbye to everyone. See if you remember when this song came from. Name that tune.
Axel F.
Axel F. Beverly Hills Cop. There you go. John wins the prize. All right. Have a great weekend, everyone. Thanks for joining with us.